Welcome back to part 6 of the div-based website. Up to this point, we should have had our template HTML page created. In this tutorial, we are going to make it an actual template file, and then we're going to be adding some editable regions in order to make it an official template, and then we will go ahead and get our homepage started. Now, upon being done with the last video, we should have this. Give it 1 second. Whoop, came up on my other screen. We should have our page with the background color on there and our rollover effect on the nav buttons. So I'm going to close this out. If we're not this far, then we have to go back to the previous videos. And what we're going to do today is, first off, I didn't do this in the last video, but it's okay, we can do it now, is we need to add the actual links to these buttons before we actually make this a template, because we're going to be using this template to make all of our other pages. But generally, you do want to set up your links beforehand. So just go ahead and name these what I'm going to name these, and just note that later on, for all the excuse me, all the pages that we create will be named exactly what these links are. So I'm going to click on Home here, and then go down to the link button down here, and then I'm going to type in index.html, and then I'm going to click now on apparel. But notice if I click back to home, it then updates and shows us what the actual link is. Let's go to apparel, and then this will be simply apparel.html, and then the rest of the names will be the same, but I'll show you what we need to do whenever we get the pet supplies. But let's continue along here. Toys.html, electronics.html, and make sure you're spelling these correct. If you are not, you will fall into problems later on. And whenever you create your new pages, make sure you spell those correct, because if the characters are wrong, it will not actually link. Now for pet supplies, I'm going to use all lowercase, and then use an underscore for the space. And all these links, make sure you're doing them in lowercase. So there we go. Now if you preview this page, which I'm not actually going to do that right now, these are actually clickable, but they're going to link you to a broken page. Reason being, we have not created these pages yet. So you can try that if you're curious, but I'm not going to do that. But have at it if you want to. Okay, now what we are going to do is create a template file from this file. So we're actually going to have a template.html, but then we are going to have a template underscore home.dwt. Now, not everybody does this, but I like to keep an HTML file of a copy of the original template, which that's what this is going to be. We're not going to go any farther with this file. We're now going to create new files from this one. So in order for us to start this, let's go up to File, Save As, and make sure you are in the main level of your root folder, and click on the type, the file type here, as a template file and that is a .dwt, and that stands for Dreamweaver template. And like I said, this one is going to be a template underscore home. And after we're done with the home page, we're going to save this as and then modify the template a little bit to make a template underscore subpages. But anyway, for right now, this is all we need. So go ahead and click on save. And you can see it opens up a new file. And I'm going to refresh over here. Now you can see that, actually let me move this. You can see now that there is your template.html, and now you have your template underscore home.dwt. Now this is the page that we're going to create all of the other pages from. So for this part on, we're going to be mostly in Dreamweaver. I'd say about 80% of the time we'll be in Dreamweaver, but we will have to go back to Photoshop for some things. So I don't even have my Photoshop up right now, but we will have to fiddle around with some images later. So just so you're aware of that. So let's talk about this template right now. In all the pages, the name of the store, the label up here, is not going to change in any of the pages. This image over here of the store is only going to be on the home page. So this will only stay for the template underscore home Dreamweaver template. So it's going to look a little bit different for the subpages. Now the nav bar over here will stay the same in all of the pages, and the news should stay the same, and the customer support will stay the same, and the footer will stay the same. So what we need to do right now is make this area editable in a regular HTML document. So what we need to do is actually assign the image in here in this div as a background image to that div. So what I'm going to do is select this image like it is and before I press delete, I have to record, just remember what image this is. This is image 10 in my root folder. It may be a little bit different for yours. So just remember which image it is. And so I'm going to click here, hit delete. Now I'm going to select the edge of my div and then click on my BG image and go to my images folder and then find my image 10. Click OK. And now you can see I can click inside the div and the cursor is now on top of the image, which is going to allow us to add stuff to this area. So I want to do that with this one down here and this one over here. So I'm going to start with this one down here, the summer styles area. And I'm going to make sure I know which one it is. It's image 12. So I'm going to select that image, hit delete, click on the edge of the div, and then go to my background image area, click on the folder, find image 12, click on OK, and again I can click in this area. Now let's go ahead and do this one over here. Same thing. It's going to be image 11, so let's delete that out. Click on the edge of the div, find background image, click on the folder, and then find 11 and then click on OK. Alright, let's save that while we're at it. And this is going to come up. We haven't put any editable regions in here yet, which that's going to be our next step, but just click on OK for right now. Now we're going to insert our editable regions. So let's go ahead and click in the new arrivals area. So we can see then our cursor was clicking there. My screen had to refresh. And inside the new arrivals, you'll know we're inside the new arrivals because you'll see it highlight over in the AP Elements panel. And we're going to go to Insert, Template Objects, and Editable Region. And then it's going to give it a default name here. Just go ahead and click on OK. And as soon as it inserts, press Enter on the keyboard. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. And then it makes that editable region larger. Now, once we use this to create other pages, the only things that we are going to be able to edit on that new page is what is inside the edit region. So keep that in mind whenever we get later into this project and start creating pages from this template. And we already want to have our new divs inside the edit region from the template, so we're going to insert those now. And these divs are going to be holding the text and the images for our pages that we will be then creating. So just like we did whenever we inserted all the other divs, we just want to make sure we're clicked inside the edit region and then go up to Insert, Layout Objects, and AP Div. And you can see here that it actually inserts it right inside the new arrivals div. So the div for the new arrivals is the container for this new div that we just inserted. Now this is going to be item 1. So let's rename that to item 1. And now what I'm going to do is just click and drag the edge of this, and it's going to resize or reposition this div. And we want to make a little bit of a space right from the left side of the div to the edge of the new div. And you can see here the left dimension is 13 pixels. That's how far it is from this news div to the edge of this div, our new div here. And then the 46 is from the top. And I'm going to zoom in, and if you haven't figured that one out, it's Control Alt and then the scroll on the keyboard. I'm going to zoom in, and I want to make sure I am right underneath this line below new arrivals. That's that gray line that you see right there, just underneath it. And mine's good at 46 pixels. Now what we want to do is make this div the size of what our images are going to be. And if you remember, we made all of our images 150 pixels wide by 150 pixels tall. But we want to fit text underneath the image. So what I'm going to do is make the width of the div 150 so it matches the width of our picture. But I'm going to make the height about 170. And then that should take us right above the bottom of our edit region. Now what I'm going to do is click over in the empty area here, and I am going to insert another div. And let's go ahead and do the width and the height here. It's going to be the same, so 150, 170. And I want to move this over to the right of this one, and we should be able to fit 3 divs in here just fine. So we're going to want to space these out evenly. We're going to put another one over here, so let me move this over a little bit. Now the top dimension, that's going to be the top of this div, or from the top of this div down to the top of this one that we just inserted. Excuse my computer there. We want to make sure it's 46, and then this one is also 46. The left dimension isn't going to matter right now until we get a new div in. But while we're at it, let's go ahead and rename this new div to item 2. Now let's make sure we click in the empty area of the div here, and I'm going to go back up to Insert, Layout Objects, AP Div, and then this one will be the same dimensions, 150 and 170. And then I'm going to move this over in this area. And then I'm going to relocate the top to 46. And now I'm just going to right now eye this up, and the space on the right over here and the space on the left over here look to be about even. Now I'm going to even up this middle dimension, or the middle div, so these two spaces are about the same. And that looks to be pretty good right there. Okay, now the new arrivals, they'll have a little bit more information on the bottom here, and the summer styles, they're going to just be more or less a link to some of the pages up here. So let's go ahead and we're going to click inside the first div here, and we want to make sure everything is centered. So if you click inside the div, now down in the properties panel, click on the CSS button if it's not already clicked, and then we want to center justify that div, and we're going to do that for each one here. So then any image or any text that comes into here will be center justified. So now down below here we're going to put another edit region, but the div size might be smaller. I haven't figured that exact size out yet, so let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to do an insert, template objects, editable region, and then it will give the default name with a 2. And then as soon as it comes in, remember, just press enter here 2 times, and 3 times is a little much, so I'm just going to leave that there. And then inside this edit region, actually before we go any farther, I didn't rename this last div, so let's do that. That will be item 3. And now let's press enter and then click back into this edit region down here. Now we will be doing the same process. We will be inserting our layout objects, AP div, And then I'm going to bring this down so I'm just under that line like we are up here, and then over a tad bit. And then I'm also going to do the 150 wide dimension here, and then it looks like we're about 115 the height. I'm going to stretch this as far as I can. Let's try a 150. That looks to be a little bit much. It looks like we will be hanging over our footer a little bit. So we may need to modify the images that we put in here to fit. Let's try a 140. That looks to be just close, but I'm going to go about 5 more pixels. So let's do about 135. Okay, that should be pretty good right there. And I'm going to put this as item 1. Oh, and it's actually, it doesn't want us to use that same item 1. So we will, let's just put, let's name it style 1. And then I'm going to click in this empty area out here. And then I'm going to continue to put our layout objects in. And make sure we have the same values. Whoops. Let me Control Z that. I accidentally grabbed something I didn't want to. So let's grab this new div. I'm going to put it over here. And they're basically going to be lined up with the ones above them because they are the same width, and we are going to be putting the same number on here on the page. So if you actually click here, you should see, you see 11. This same left dimension should be the same for this top one. Yep, 11 and 11. And then this one is 194. Okay, the top one's 193. So let's go ahead and change that 194 to 193. And then I'm going to click in this empty area again. Actually, let's rename this to style 2. And then click in the empty area. Let's insert one more div. Resize it. And then I'm going to look at the dimensions up here for the left and the top. We have 375. Actually, just for the left, and let's make this one 375. And then all of these top dimensions should be the same. So I have 38, this one's 37, and I have a 38, so I will make this one 38 also. Okay, so now we have all those. Now let's go ahead through here and center all these divs. So just click inside the div, click on the center, click this one, center, click this one, and center. Perfect. Now we have one more that we have to work with, and that's the news area. So I'm going to click in that div. And I'm going to put another edit region in. So let's go to Insert, Template Objects, Editable Region, and then it will add a 3 to it. And then as soon as it comes in, press Enter so it opens it up. And then I'm going to click inside here, and then I will insert a new div. To there, and there's only going to be one div. And this will be bulleted information, generally in text or links. Well, linked text. So basically just all text. So I'm just going to click on the edge here, and it's sitting at 200 in the width. We could probably up that to about 210, maybe about 215 actually. Okay, so that's pretty good. And then I'm going to make this taller, so let's do about 175. And we could actually probably go up to about 195. And that's pretty good. I'm going to adjust this a little bit more, so bring it down some. And then we can leave this left aligned because all our text will go from left to right. I think it'll look better that way. And then if we add a bulleted list or an ordered list into here, it'll look a little bit better. So let's go ahead and do a file save. And now at this point, we should be able to go ahead and actually make our home page from this template. Now, before we save this as an index.html file, that's the home page, we want to make some CSS codes for the text that we are going to put in here. We want the text to match the other text from the graphics. And what you're going to have to do is just either pick a normal text if your text that you used was not one of the standard texts, and you'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. Just because it's hard to work with in HTML odd text. But anyway, I found a couple mistakes. I didn't actually rename a couple of the divs here. So let's go ahead and do that, because this is going to be important for creating our CSS styles. So this is style 3. That's the bottom one there. And I did not rename the news, so I'm just going to name this news. And then I'll just put a 1 after it. Okay, now what a CSS is, it stands for Cascade Style Sheet. Basically, it is the style that you want to make something in Dreamweaver or on any CSS document. Now, this something that we are working with right now is the page text. So things that are associated with the page text are font size, color, style, that would be bold, italicized, underlined, and there are quite a few other things that you can do with it, but that's just to name a few. So the first thing we want to do is actually name the actual font family and then the font size. But we have to name these according to what div they are sitting in. So you have to select the div, and you can see here, and I'm actually going to click and drag my CSS panel out so we can see it a little bit bigger here, and I'm going to drag this down some, and you can do the same if you'd like. And I'm actually going to, if I click and drag the top of this just to the edge where my cursor then meets the edge, it will dock it right there. We don't need to have it this wide. So let me bring that in some, and I'll bring this in some. You can do the same if you'd like. Now you can see here, these are all this divs that are listed. And you can see here, if I click through them, it shows us what styles are associated with each div. And right now we really don't have any associated at all. Except for if you go to, where would that be listed? That would be, I think, oh yeah, under the body code, you can see down here the background color is the gray that I made here. And we actually named that through the page properties. And you can make CSS styles in different areas of Dreamweaver. But let's go ahead, and we're going to name the text style for the actual container, because then it's going to change any text that we put in any of the divs if we actually associate it with the container. But I'm going to tell you right now, we want two different types of text. We want our product text, which is going to be in these divs, but then we want our news text, which I'm going to have the news text a little bit larger than the product text, but it will still be the same font. So in order, and actually just for example, you don't have to do this. If I start typing text out, you can see it is a very plain default text, and you can see down here it is default text. And we don't want that. It doesn't match the other text on the website and just makes for a bad design. So if I associate a font with the container, so let me actually select the container here and then go down to the font styles, and it's a difference. If you have current selected, it will only show you the rules associated with which containers, but I have all, just so we can see all the divs here. So I'm going to click on container and then go down to font family, and then I'm going to click Arial. And that's actually the font that I use for my graphics here. Yours may be a little bit different, and you can use a different font if you would like. Now I'm going to make my font size 12 here. Now that applies it to everything inside the container. So if I start typing out here, you can see now the text is the Arial font, and it is a size 12. If I change this here to say 36, you can see now it changes this text. And then if I type in here, it's the same. And if I bring this back to 12, it'll bring it back down. I'm going to leave it as size 12 for right now. If we feel that text is too small later on, we can always go back to the template and change this. So what we want to do now, though, is change the code for this news 1 div. So I'm going to go find the news 1 div. It's at the bottom here because it's the last one I put in. And then I'm going to select the same font family, but I'm going to make a font size of 16. And now if I go over here and start to type in text, you can see it is bigger than the other text here. So, excuse me, if you start with a container and make the container the properties of the text that you want most of the text on the page, then you can go to individual areas and then change the text individually. And this is exactly how we want it. So we want the container to have a font family, and we want the news one to have a font family. If you really wanted to, you could actually assign a font family for each div, but that would actually make for a bad design because you want a common text over the whole viewing screen. Now what we can do is save this as a template. Make sure you can see your files panel over here, and what's going to happen is we're going to save this as an official template for the website, and it's going to create a new folder in your root folder called templates. And now I'm going to go to file, and if you haven't saved this file already, go ahead and do do so right now. I have seasonal allergies right now, that's why. If you've heard me coughing at all, that's why. Now if you just clicked on save, click on file again and go down to save as template, and I'm going to name this as template underscore home. So let's go ahead and click on save, and then it's going to say update links. Go ahead and click on yes, and now you can see that there's a templates folder, and now there is another template. It's basically a copy of the one that is out here, but if you need to make any changes to this template, you have to change it on the one in the templates folder, because it's only going to make the new pages from this template here. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and close out here. And now what we want to do is we're going to go ahead and make our index page, which is our home page. And I'm going to go ahead and under the create new, go down and click on more. And then we want to click on page from template, and now if you click on your root folder, you will see that here is now the template home that is this is the template that is inside the templates folder. So then you can go ahead and click on create, and now we want to do a file save as, and this we want to name it as index.html, and then click on save. Now you can see index.html pops up over here. Now what we can do is start actually creating what we want to see on the home page. Now you should have some type of products folder in your root folder, or if you just have your products saved within the root folder, now would be a good time to make a products folder. And if I expand mine out, I actually have two folders inside that one. One's called large thumbnails, which I only have one picture in that, and then large images, I'm sorry, and then we have thumbnails. Now the thumbnails are what we're actually going to be using inside here. The larger images, we may use those later on if we have enough time, but right now we will not be using them. So you should have at least 6 thumbnails. That was the assignment that you had to do for a couple weeks ago whenever I wasn't there a day. And what you had to do is take pictures with the DSLR cameras and then resize them to be web capable. Now I'm going to pick one of the images that I have over here, and all you have to do is click and drag it into where you want to put it. And I'm going to start with my new arrivals area, and this one is a camera, so I'm just going to name it camera in the accessibility attributes, and you can see there it is set up to be 150 and by 150. And now I'm going to actually make sure the image is selected and hit the right arrow key, and you can see the cursor is starting there. Now I'm going to start typing in here, and this will be Canon camera, and that'll be set up for set up with the properties that we assign to the container. So that's one of the new arrivals here, and what we're going to do later on is probably link this to our electronics area, just so it takes us to that page. But right now we're not going to do that. I just want to get everything in here. So now I'm going to make a couple different choices here. Let's do let's try the cat food here. Drag that in here. So there's a picture of the cat food, and then again I'm going to right click, not right click, actually click the right arrow, that's what I meant. And then let's go ahead down here, and I'm going to let's pick this hat image. Alright, so those are the new arrivals there. Now over in the latest goods news, that's just for news sections here. Let's just make a few things up, and I'm just going to put new department store opened in Pittsburgh, because that's where we're at. And then let's do we'll say let's say March, or no, let's do April sales highest in the last 2 years, or also I'll say within the last 2 years. And then I'm just going to put those for now. So I'm just going to leave those like that. You're not going to actually see the box, the actual div box, whenever you preview the page. So that's good for that. Now the next thing I want to start putting into the divs are the new apparel, or well, the new summer style pictures. Now since we're a little bit shorter than 150 here, you may need to crop some of your images within Photoshop, but I know this apparel resized image is the right size, and this is a shoe. Now I had another one that was the slinky, so I'm going to bring that one in here. And then I am going to let me double check my folder here. It was the toy cars here, or toy cards. It's always good to have your window up that shows all the previews of your images. So here's the toy cards. And this may not necessarily be summer styles. It's more or less an example of something that could be on the website. So what we could do is then hit over here and put in Nike flights. I think that's what those are. This one is Slinky, even though that came out many years ago. And then this one will be Magic Cards. Now, we want to put Magic on the other line. This image just isn't as wide, so I'm going to press Shift, hold in Shift, and then press Enter, and it puts it right underneath. It would have made a space in between these two if I would have just pressed Enter. So now this is generally this is what basically the home page is now. I mean, there's a few adjustments we can make. We could align the images a little bit better, but let's before we do that, let's go ahead and do a file save, and then let's preview this. Oh, it came up in my other window again. So now you can see, now our images are in there, our text looks good, our rollovers are working fine. And now actually if you click on home, it doesn't go to a broken page because it just reloads itself. But apparel, that hasn't been created yet, so home actually is just refreshing the page. But I did forget one thing. See where it says Untitled Document? We don't want that on there. So what we need to do is give this page a title, and that is listed right up here. Now, since this page is being driven by a template, we can't actually change this up here. It just goes back to Untitled Document. So I'm just going to make sure this is saved the way it is. I'm going to close it out. And then, like I stated before, I'm actually going to contract my product images. It's driven by this template here, not the ones outside of the template folder. So I'm going to open up this template, and then I'm going to change that here. This will be, I'll put goods DS. Actually, I'll just put website, and then I'll do a file save, and then it'll say update all files based on this template, and then our index will be listed there. So I'll go ahead and click on update, and then I always like to click on library items and then click on the start and then click on close. And now if we open up the index page here, you can see it now updated the index page. And then let's go ahead and just preview this one more time so we can see that change. And now you can see that up in the tab it has changed. So there is our home page. We're done with that. Now the next tutorial we will create a new template from this existing template here, and we are going to take off some of these items here. Actually, we're going to keep some of the divs similar to what they are here. We're going to take out the new arrivals, check out our summer styles, and we're going to take this image out, and then we will go from there, and then start creating all the sub pages here for apparel, toys, electronics, pet supplies, and gardening. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in part 7.